Luffy runs to Sentomaru and apologizes to him for distracting him. Sentomaru, however, tells Luffy that he foresaw Lucci's attack, but he was not fast enough to block it. Lucci tells Sentomaru that he needs him out of the picture if CP0 is to take command of the Seraphim. As he tries to attack him again, he gets intercepted by Luffy, who spins around and slams Lucci far away into a wall with a move the former calls Gomu Gomu no Don Whip. Jinbei calls to Luffy and tells him that they need to get to the real Vegapunk in order to save Atlas, but Luffy ends up spinning himself so hard that he cannot stop himself from doing so, and he even unintentionally heads towards the opposite direction of his crew. Meanwhile, the Seraphim continue to push back CP0, with Kaku saying that they are unstoppable, and even if they destroyed them, they would still consider it a loss. Stussy even adds that the most terrifying aspect of it all is that the Seraphim are still only children. Up on the Labaface, Frankie asks Vegapunk if the ability that S-Shark is using is the Sway Sway no Mi that Senor Pink ate, and if it means Senor Pink is dead now since there can be no two users of the same devil fruit at the same time. Vegapunk tells Frankie that Senor Pink is in fact alive and confined in Impel Down, and Frankie asks in response if Vegapunk copied his devil fruit. Vegapunk clarifies that he is only capable of replicating Zone devil fruits, which he considers the process of doing so vastly different and more acceptable from Caesar Clown's Smile production. He also says that with unlimited resources, he could replicate even the special types of Zone fruits, though he is not sure if he can get them to awaken. He says that he tried to replicate Logia fruits, but found it to be very complicated. For Paramesha fruits, however, he found an alternative method of replicating their powers by synthesizing blood from a Paramesha user's lineage factor, i.e. the green blood, flowing through S-Shark, S-Bear, and S-Snake right now, which allows the latter two to use the Nikyu Nikyu no Mi and Mero Mero no Mi respectively. Vegapunk concludes saying that the Seraphim are the culmination of all of his ideas and may go down in history as the most powerful beings that ever existed in the world. Frankie is left in awe as Nami realizes that this was the reason the 7 warlords of the sea had been abolished, while Usopp panics over the nature of what Vegapunk has just created, with Sanji and Robin even adding that they consider the Seraphim a threat to them. Down in Fabrio Face, Lucci recovers and charges for Sentomaru once again, but Luffy intercepts him again and tries to bite down on him. Lucci sidesteps him and Luffy fires the rubble he chomped down on at Lucci, who either tries to dodge or destroy. Luffy then backs up into a pipe that he makes rubber and fires himself at Lucci at rocket speed in a move he calls Gomu Gomu no Don Rocket, nailing him square in the chest. Lucci goes flying once again as he calls Luffy's devil fruit insanely powerful, and that he's starting to lose consciousness. Chopper and Jinbei are then directed by S-Snake to the vacuum rocket, which will take them up to Labaface. Jinbei thanks her and says that it is nice to see a kind version of Boa Hancock for a change, though S-Snake claims she was only following orders. With only 1 minute before the vacuum rocket departs, Chopper once again calls to Luffy. Sentomaru tells Luffy that he trusts Vegapunk with him and his crew, and he promises to help him escape. Luffy gets into the rocket. Bonnie gets waken up by the rocket and she asks where she is and where Vegapunk is. Jinbei replies and says you have come to. Stay calm, we're on the vacuum rocket. Bonnie asks who the hell is this supposed to be. Jinbei replies and says it's a long story. But that's Luffy, but let's save the explanation for later. A voice is heard saying the approximate journey time from Fabrio Stadium to the Labor Stadium is 32 seconds. And says the Frontier Dome has been fortified. Intruders have infiltrated, be on high alert. And tells the lab workers to barricade the factory shelters properly. Kaku says you have to hand it to him. Vegapunk wouldn't ask for a better bodyguard. This is a real pity Sentomaru. Stussy says our orders are to wait for the Marines. Lucci says, if we wait too long they will get away. Usopp says they seriously want you dead. Wouldn't that be a waste to the government? You're the smartest man in the world. And would you rest easy if you thought such intellect may turn against you? Vegapunk says not that I ever intended to do so, mind you an Emperor's crew showing up just as things come to a head. What a serendipitous twist of fate. Nami says oh yeah, I suppose it would make sense to snuff out a potential liability like you. Usopp says how can you talk about snuffing someone out like that? Nonetheless, Usopp and Frankie agree to let Vegapunk on board their ship, with Frankie in particular gushing at the notion of Vegapunk inspecting his ship. Chapter 1070 then shifts perspective to Lucci's group. Lucci orders the Seraphim to block every exit and says there are 6 Vegapunk left, including the real Vegapunk. Kaku says yeah, but that defense system of theirs sure is a tough nutcracker. Sentomaru on the ground coughs. Lucci replies and says I don't care, I won't let any of those brats get away. Meanwhile, Luffy's group managed to find a place to get Atlas patched up as Bonnie leaves to confront Vegapunk once again, saying that if he cannot turn her father back to normal, then she has no choice left but to kill him, even though others noted that she had simply lashed out in anger. Out at sea, Kizaru makes his way to Egghead with a fleet of warships. He says that theoretically the Straw Hats teaming up with Vegapunk will make for an easy escape, but he does not intend for it to be so. What do you think of this chapter? Leave your answers in the comments section below, and I would really appreciate it if you press that subscribe button.